Welcome everyone to this Spirit Drivers live interview with Greg Evans. We are going to bring him on in just a moment, but before we do, I want to let you know that I'm Elise Dorset and I am a relationship coach, and I'm here with my partner Greg Grudeau.
And I'm a business advisor. I work with companies at all stages to try to accelerate their business as well as accelerate financing for their businesses.
Yes, and we are Spirit Drivers. So we offer digital forums for professionals going through change. We're here to help boost your confidence and relieve stress and connect you to your vision. And we would invite you to learn more by going on our website after the interview and checking out the free guide that we have to overcome fear and train your focus on your vision so that you can really maintain that energy of vision in your life instead of swaying in the wind of chaos and uncertainty that we've got going on right now. So, shall I introduce Greg Evans? Greg Grudeau?
It's the Greg with 2 G's, not 3. So we're ready for Greg Evans.
Yes. So before I bring him on, I just want to talk a little bit about Greg, because he's a really special person who truly makes a difference in people's lives. We met Greg Evans on LinkedIn just through how he shows up in his videos and through the resources that he shares through his coaching business, Greg Evans Coaching. So I encourage you to go to his LinkedIn page and check out his videos because he really has such a heartwarming message. And how did he get to where he is? So Greg spent years playing it safe with insecurities and doubts. He was always feeling stressed and worn out, and he felt like he never measured up. And eventually, over the course of many years, he understood the message of value and his own self-worth. And now that's what he teaches to other people. So he's learned the tools to quiet his mind and de-stress, some of the things that we're going to be talking about today. And he uses a lot of meditation and mindfulness in particular. So now he shares his experiences, knowledge, and these tools with people to help them lower their stress and anxiety and to help them embrace their value and self-worth as human beings. And also, he helps people to become all that they can be, to be the badass that they know down deep that they are, which I love that. So without further ado, Greg Evans, welcome to the Spirit Drivers videocast.
Good morning, Greg.
I am honored.
We're honored.
We're absolutely honored. Thank you so much for being here. So tell us, to start, more about your journey from stress and anxiety and feeling like you could never measure up to knowing your self-worth, because I know I can relate to that, and I'm sure many of our viewers can.
Okay. Well, it started out as a kid. My dad, when I was growing up, he actually worked for Hostess, the cupcake company, and the Twinkies, and he was a delivery driver for that.
We love those.
I was heartbroken when they closed down shop for a while, but Yeah. Anyway, so he did that for a living, and then on the side, he had a side thing where he worked at a gas station, and unfortunately, he was also an alcoholic at the time. So he pretty much was never around. And then my mother had to pretty much deal with him. So I didn't really have a whole lot of encouragement and comfort and support as a kid. They loved me. They both definitely did. It's not that. It's just when you're a kid and you're insecure and you're entering the world and you're like, what is this thing, the world that I'm living in? And you start going to kindergarten and other places. They could take care of me, make sure I had my food, make sure I had a bed, but they didn't have that extra energy for the emotional support. So there was a lot of insecurity growing up. Pretty much stayed with me through grade school. And then as I started getting out of, moving through high school, I started discovering psychology and started discovering techniques of, meditation, mindfulness. Well, not so much mindfulness at the time, but some kind of basics, things that kind of started showing up. But that is where it started start clicking in. I started realizing that, well, hold on, I'm not no different than anyone else. We all have our insecurities. We all have our imperfections. We all fall short. And so I'm no better, no worse than anyone else. And then realizing that we all have this inner diamond in us. We all have, that's one of the reasons why I like to use the diamond in the rough. We all have those rough sides about us. We all have those sides that people see in us and go, oh, there's that bad side of Greg again. But on the flip end of the coin, we all have those wonderful sides. And the thing is, we're not to really evaluate ourselves based on what we do. You just are valuable. You are that diamond in the rough. And so I keep trying to remind people, it's one of my big messages, you are a diamond in the rough. Your value is not in question. Your worth is not in question. Embrace the wonderful you. Embrace the wonderful sides. And then those sides that are the rough, laugh at it and just kind of go, okay, this is my shortcomings, but then also work on it when you need to.
I love that philosophy, the diamond in the rough. I've noticed that you use the diamond emoji in your LinkedIn videos, and it's so true. I believe the same. However, sometimes it can feel like I'm more aware of the rough than I am of the diamond. So what would you tell somebody like me who can get confused? I'll use that word, confused about their value.
Well, I think one of the things is to first take it off of what you do. I think a lot of times, especially in this world, it's very easy to evaluate you by what you do. I know a lot of us men, we feel like, well, our value is based on what we do. I mean, that's one of the first things you do when you meet, like us guys, when you meet someone. Well, what do you do for a living? Well, right away, you're in a way sizing them up. So I've been trying to make a point not to ask that. I do still slip into it because it's one of those easy ones to kick to. But to not look at your value as what you do. You just are valuable. You are worth. So look at yourself. Look at the wonderful sides. We all have wonderful sides and wonderful aspects to ourselves. One of the things that I try and remind people, it's kind of intense, and I apologize that it is, but when people unfortunately do suicide, everyone always misses them. There's always a group of people that go. Oh. So I try to remind people, there are people that are going to miss you. You may not think it, but trust me, there are going to be people that as soon as you go, they're going to go. And even more so, with how people are so socially divided, if you let yourself get to know people, there'll be even more people that'll be missing you. So I wish people, you'll get to know people, but that's kind of another side point.
Mm. What a powerful way to think about it. One of my favorite exercises that I also use with my coaching clients is the exercise of looking back at your life, either from your own funeral, as dark as this sounds, but either from your own funeral or from being 90 years old and sitting in a rocking chair and looking back on your life and reflecting on what is it that you want people to have remembered you for. What is it that you want to be remembered for by your clients or by your people in your community, your family, your friends? And it often helps people to visualize their worth and also the person who they want to be.
Well, very true. That is a great idea. I do recommend that too. Actually, I will try to look at that too. I've kind of used the more of letting go of things of your life, but that's an interesting idea. Thank you. I will definitely into utilizing that.
Sure. Yeah, it's always interesting to play with time and go back and forward in time and use that visualization to help you to reach a different kind of conclusion. So can you tell us about some of the tools that you use, Greg Evans, to help your clients really know their worth?
The tools that I use, one of them is for self-forgiveness. The fact that anytime you make a mistake, it's done. And I think that's one of the biggest things that people need to remember is once the mistake is done, it's done. One of the things I got nervous about coming on here. One of the things I remind myself, as soon as I've said something, that's it. It's said. I can't do anything. I can go back and go, yeah, what I really meant is, or what I really should have said is, but it's too late. It's already out. And one of the things I try to remind people is, okay, yeah, what you did is what you did. I mean, we've all made mistakes. My dentist sees me more frequently than I wish he did because as a kid, I didn't like brushing my teeth. I have bad teeth now because of that. Well, I can sit and beat myself up every time I have to go to the dentist and pay maybe a bit more than I should. I'm flipping the client's like, okay, you know what? Those were decisions based in the past. Forgive it. Let it go. And so now do the best you can now. And then also remind yourself, we're still human. There are going to be those moments we're going to choose the selfish route over the wise route. We're heading into Halloween. We're heading into Thanksgiving and Christmas. A lot of people, this tends to be an overeating time of the year. And so one of the things I try to remind people is, okay, well, think ahead. If you're nervous, if you think you're going to make a bad decision, Make plans ahead so you don't make those bad decisions, but allow room for grace if you do. And just say, you know what, you're human. At some point, you are going to make a mistake again. At some point, I'm going to make a mistake again. We're all going to fall short, and that's okay.
Mm.
Greg, when with my clients, especially the business advisory clients, I try to remind them that we grow by making mistakes. None of us took a straight path to success or failure, right? We made mistakes along the way. We learned from them. It's okay to make a mistake. It's not okay to leave it, right? I mean, that's really the I believe what your coaching and Elisa's coaching also bring out with people is that, well, we are people, right? We are, and I love the diamond in the rough analogy. That image will stick with me for a long time. Thank you so much. But I think the diamond in the rough side is, all the dings that we got from making all of the mistakes that we made. But we wouldn't be who we are, and we wouldn't have grown to be who we are now without having made those mistakes. So they have value, even though they might be the world's most embarrassing and stupid moments that you've ever imagined. They're your moments, right?
Mm.
And you learn.
Yeah, and to me, this is such a key de-stressor. If you really get this and you really get into the practice of forgiving yourself quickly when you make a mistake and really understand that success is actually made of failure. I went to an amazing event yesterday, and we had somebody from Google come and talk about how Google thinks about failure and success. And she says that failure is not the opposite of success. Instead, success is not possible without failure. You have to fail over and over and over and over and over again, and just think of it as each time you learn and iterate and try again. And that really resonated with me because, of course, like anyone, I'm also afraid of failure. But when you really make that shift of, hey, I messed up, but I can forgive myself and I can learn and I can move forward, then it really takes a lot of stress off. It takes a lot of pressure off because there will always be another chance, and you always have another opportunity to try again.
Right. Very true. And I like how you both have been saying that it's about reframing the mind on failure. That's one thing that I'm big on is reframing, redefining. One thing else to get to anger, but that's a side thing. But as far as reframing, a lot of times it's reframing. So you failed. So instead of like framing it as a failure, framing it as a learning experience, reframing it, and then look at what's the positive. One of the big things I try to tell people to do is focus on the positive of now. Okay, let's say you just failed. Well, now here's the opportunity to learn. So now you got a positive thing. You are now about to get educated. So now you can look at what failed, analyze it, and go, okay, I'm about to learn. Versus like going, oh, I'm such an idiot. I should have done better. We all could have done better at some point in our lives. It's just human. Our brains are not us. We're going to make mistakes. That's one of the things I try to remind people too, is the brain is just another part of your body. It doesn't always do what we want it to do. So your brain's not going to always remember the thing at the moment. I mean, how many of us have left a conversation going, oh, I should have said.
Right.
Just going back to my point is just reframing. And I like how both of you brought that up, to reframe the failure as a learning experience.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and it's really the same analogy with the diamond and the rough. So you can focus on the diamond or you can focus on the rough. And as you reframe your story about yourself and self-forgive and choose to see the positive, the diamond in yourself and in any situation, you feel better immediately.
And that translates to other people almost immediately. It's like a kinetic response, right? That other people will pick up on the fact that you are feeling good about yourself.
Yeah. So Greg Evans, can you help us apply this to right now? Because I know that a lot of people are going through a lot of stress right now, a lot of anxiety, a lot of uncertainty. So how can we apply some of these tools to this particular moment in time?
Well, this particular moment in time, one of the things I try and encourage people to do is focus on the positive. Focus on, as I like to say sometimes, just focus on the positive of now. A lot of people in self-help talk about gratitude and how the benefits of gratitude. And there are a lot of benefits of gratitude. But one of the great benefits of is focus on the positive now. A lot of times we look at, I've talked to a number of people who are unemployed or underemployed, and they go, oh, how am I going to pay my bills? I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I'm like, okay, right now, are you safe? Are you good? Yes. When people have high anxiety, one of the things that they often have to do is what's called centering, which is, I'm really anxious, okay, stop, are you safe? Okay, yes, I'm safe. I'm not, I'm in a house, so, a car ain't going to come traveling through here. I'm not, I don't have cancer. I'm not about to die. I'm, okay, you're safe. All right, good. All right, do you have food? Yes, I have food. Okay, then you got that taken care of. You have water? Yes. Okay, now you got that taken care of. So centering works for some people. Other, like I said, go to the positive of now. Right now, I'm having a wonderful conversation with both of you. I'm learning things, so I get to leave here going, okay, I picked up some things. The wonderful thing is this is recorded, so now I can go back to it and go, oh, I like that when Elise said that. I am going to remember that, and I'm going to use that in the future. And then, of course, give you credit for it. One thing I try and encourage people to do is, what are the positives now? I'm having a pleasant conversation. I'm sitting on a comfortable couch. I've got some water. Focus on the positives of now. A lot of times we focus too much on the future, which tends to be worry, or we focus too much on the past, which tends to be guilt. Let's focus on now.
So powerful. I love that. And I'm reading The Power of Now very slowly, because I find that whenever I read that book, I get into the now in a really powerful way. Like the words of the book lead me there, which I love that experience, because it's really true. You said it so well, that the past tends to be full of guilt or regret, and the future tends to be full of anxiety. But in the now, 95% of the time, if you're of a certain status, you have all of your needs met and much more. And so to focus on what you do have, to focus on how safe you are, to focus on everything that you have now and that you are now, and bring that presence right to the moment, is such a powerful de-stressor. I love that technique.
It also puts a lot of sparkle on possibilities, doesn't it? Because once you can center yourself in the moment, then the possibilities of the next moment and the next day and the next task and the next meeting and the next Zoom call, right, start to feel a lot better to people. It's great advice, Greg.
Well, one thing I'd also like to share, if you guys don't mind, why new breathing technique. And this is one of the things that I also encourage humbleness, but I learned a new breathing technique, and I'll make sure I get the name right. Dr. Huberman, Andrew Huberman, we talk about breathing as far as a way of de-stressing. So one of the things in getting to the now, we talk about deep breathing. Well, I learned that apparently I've been doing it wrong. I've been teaching people you just breathe deep. Apparently what you need to do is breathe deep in twice and then exhale slowly. So when we're trying to focus on the positive of now, one of the things I try and encourage people to do also is try to breathe deep. And the wonderful thing is you can do that in the middle of the stressful situation. In the back of my head, for whatever reason, years ago, I unfortunately lost a job. I was working for we'll say a restaurant. I'll leave it at that. I don't want to put any negativity towards the person. I wasn't trained very well, and I ended up being let go because I wasn't doing things that I wasn't trained on. So, so I have this thing in the back of my head when I talk to a supervisor or a boss or someone who's a leader above me. There's sometimes that little fear in the back of my head, not necessarily I'll be fired, but this is going to be a negative experience, that I'm going to be called out, that I'm going to be told I failed. So one of the things I've learned is to do some deep breathing before or even during those times. And the nice thing is they can't see that you're doing that. But what Dr. Huberman recommends is 2 deep breaths in versus just the deep breath in, deep breath out. Apparently it resets your system. So I have been using that, and I've been telling others, and so far I've been hearing nothing but very positive results. So,
can you lead us through that exercise?
Yeah. Now, one thing I do, and I think it looks kind of corny, but I do it because it's a visual that helps people, is I'm going to raise my hands when breathing in and then lowering them to breathe out. So what I recommend people to do is you're going to breathe in deep and then take a slight pause and breathe in deep again and then slowly breathe out. So right, everyone, and we're about to try this, so let's all do it together. Breathe in. Now, ideally, you want to breathe out of your mouth. And so, now granted, I kind of exaggerated a bit to try and make the point. You can just quietly, in ways that people won't notice. And if you're too nervous about how people will see, well, just breathe in once and breathe out once. But while we can't necessarily immediately control our heart rate, we can control our breathing. And if we can lower our body, that will lower the heart rate.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So, great technique.
I already feel the difference. It feels
Right.
so good.
Yeah, so I recommend everyone, if you're anytime you're in a stressful situation, immediately run to that deep breathing. And then whatever else you need to do, centering, gratitude, whatever, just something so you get your brain in a good place, and you get your body in a good place, and then move forward in whatever stress you have to deal with.
Well, that's an excellent technique. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
I want to review. Okay.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, Eckhart Tolle in The Power of Now, he talks about breathing as one of the portals to the now. And it's so powerful because your breath and your body are always in the now. Your mind often is not, but your body often is. So the more you can use breathing as a portal to step into this moment, the better off you are in terms of being present.
Yeah.
So I'm getting a few really good things here that I just want to review. So the first step when you're stressed is, well, it sounds like it's like you have a menu of different options and you can choose what works for you. It's not necessarily step 1, step 2, step 3. It's just try these different techniques and see what works. So the first one you mentioned is the question of asking yourself, what are the positive aspects of now? And that sounds like something that you can really program in as a question throughout your day. Always be asking yourself that. What are the positive aspects of now? What are the positive aspects of now? There are so many things that you can see once you train your mind to see life that way. So that's the first one. The second one is centering through recognizing everything that you do have right now. And the third one would be the deep breathing technique, taking 2 inhales in and 1 exhale out through the mouth.
There are a lot of techniques. I mean, there's others, exercise and whatnot, but those are, the nice thing I like about a lot of those is you can do them now. I mean, exercise is great, but you can't run off to the gym. It's like, oh, my boss is talking to me. I need to de-stress. Sorry, boss, I got to run. You can't. But the thing about these I like is you can do them anytime. You can do them anywhere. You can do them in the middle of conversations. I've discovered, and I have liked your work, Elise. I've looked at some of your relationship stuff. I am not a relationship coach. It's one of the things I appreciate about people like you.
Thank you.
Because I've learned in marriage that works great. To help me focus on the conversation, take some deep breaths, and then kind of calm myself down. Makes it easier to just focus on the conversation.
Yes.
And the positives of the conversation.
Oh, I love that. Yes, that is so true. You can definitely use that with your partner. The more you focus on the positive aspects of your partner, the more you're present in conversation, I think the more your relationship will grow and the more you'll learn about your partner, because you can always learn something new.
Right.
So one of the things that you said earlier, Greg Evans, was that a lot of people are stressed right now, and that's okay. It's okay to be stressed. So tell us about that.
Well, the other thing is, one of the things I like to remind people is it is okay to be stressed. Right now, we've got COVID, and however you feel about it, however you think about it, is however you think about it. But it is a stressor to anyone that I've talked to, at least on some level, whether they're leaning one direction or another, however they think of it. It is a stressor. So one of the things I try and remind people is it's okay to be stressed. Actually, stress, the thing that we sometimes forget about stress is short-term stress is actually a good thing. Stress actually builds up our immunity system. The problem is when we're stressed too long, then it tears it down. So stress, it's like, if the fight or flight, it's actually a good thing. If you're in the middle of a road and a car is coming, fight and flight's really good. You don't want to freeze in that moment. You want to, jump in. And the nice thing is the body then also builds up the antibodies and strengthens you to take care of illnesses. So stress is actually a good thing. I try and remind people, don't be too negative on stress. Once again, you can redefine the stress as a good thing. But the other thing is, we can't deal with a lot of these external things. One of the things that I try to remind people is, okay, COVID is out there. There's nothing we can do about it. Well, unless you are a doctor who's scientifically studying this. And yes, you can wash your hands, wear a mask, and I recommend all those. But for the large degree, right now we're all sitting in this conversation. There's really nothing we can do. So I try to remind people, if there's nothing you can do right now, let it go. Just let it go. Bring yourself to the positives of now. Focus on the now. Focus on what you can do now. Don't worry about the COVID. Let's say you're unemployed. I've been dealing with some people that are unemployed. Well, okay. Can you work on that right now? If the answer is no, then you need to let it go. A lot of times I've known people, it's like 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. They're trying to rest, but they're like, well, maybe I should have done this. Maybe I should do that. And I'm like, okay, is this a good time for you to work on your resume and your schedules? No, then let it go. We all have times where we're high on energy, times we're low on energy. If you're low on energy, I know at night my brain skills go down. So I know, as I like to kid around, it's not the time to operate heavy machinery when my brain skills are lower. So it's too late to, if it's 9, 10 o'clock and I'm like, I should do something for my business or that, and I know it's complicated, I got to save it for tomorrow. And I focus in on the positive now. And if nothing else, okay, that's a sign to go to bed early so I can do it tomorrow. So also take care of yourself. I think another thing with stress and things is people don't always get the rest they need. The longer I'm looking into sleep, the more I'm discovering, boy, this thing is really, really powerful too. So make sure you take care of yourself. Mm-hmm. Get some exercise. I do recommend that also. It is interesting how the body can help the mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just love that idea that it's okay to be stressed, and stress is not a bad thing in and of itself. And we tell a big bad story about stress and make it into a monster. Of course, it can be detrimental if you feel stressed all the time, but there are also many things that you can do to mitigate it. The first thing being letting it be okay, that you have that, recognizing that it's natural and normal. And then also that you can seek help.
Yes, and that's one thing I also, thank you for bringing that up. I do want to bring up. I've got someone close to me who is on anti-anxiety medication, and they need to be on it. They know the relaxation techniques. They know to focus on the positive now. They know deep breathing. They know to exercise. They know all of these, and they do them, and they still have it. I've been talking to my doctor. I went into my doctor recently, and he acknowledged, the anti-anxiety medication. Sometimes it's hard to get some of them because they're selling out fast. So if you really need it, don't be afraid to go ahead and get it. What I want to encourage people to do is, it's supposed to be a tool to help. Make sure you use other tools. Make sure you have a good diet. Make sure you exercise. Practice the positivity now. Deep breathe. Use these other tools too. Too often times I've seen other people it's like, I'll just take a pill for it. And I'm like, well, okay, that's help. But you need to, that's going to help you better life, but it's just a tool. You need to use all the tools. Now, granted, if some tool doesn't work for you, then don't use it. But the deep breathing, the focus on that, a lot of these tools, most people will find beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
Greg, I often counsel people to make sure to get enough sleep, because if you don't get enough sleep, your body doesn't grow, and it take yourself back to to your children or when you were a baby, right? Babies sleep an awful lot, right? Why? Everybody always, it's like, thank goodness they're asleep. They're growing, and they don't grow when they're awake. They grow only when they're asleep. We have a new puppy here. The puppy sleeps a lot. The puppy is growing like a monster dog now, but because she's sleeping really well, really comfortable, and she's growing. So as adults, we have to do the same thing. We have to make sure to get enough sleep, and if we don't dream, then we don't actually sleep. So that's the other big key, is to make sure that enjoy the dreams, as weird as they are. And boy, I think I could write a book every morning, but that's what my dreams were last night. But at the end of the day, you need to make sure that you're getting good sleep as well as enough sleep. And
Mhm.
I counsel people, ferociously to make sure that they have an end of the day. Put their phone away. Put that thing down. Don't take it to bed with you.
Mhm. Yeah, and Greg Evans, you mentioned that too. You mentioned when you're sleepy and it's getting towards the end of the day, you might feel tempted to just do one more thing for your business or to just tackle one more task, just log on just for a second and get it done. But really, if your brain, you said something, your brain power is low, which we all have those moments, of course, then it's just going to be more stressful than it's worth. And maybe there's something else more important now, like sleeping, that sets you up to win the next day. And I've definitely found that in my own life that, especially with devices, because Greg Gerdeau and I have been talking about this a lot. There's a film called The Social Dilemma
Oh yes.
that talks about how our devices are designed to keep us hooked to them. And I've heard it said so many times, I tried to go to bed early, but I couldn't get off my phone. And it's happened to me too. I tried to go to bed early, but I just had too much to do last night. Well, really, it's just that it seems like you could work forever because that's how our devices are set up. There's always another message. There's always another ding or blip or notification. So to just be really disciplined about time when you're turning those things off and getting yourself to bed and doing those practices that you need to do before you get to sleep so you can sleep well.
Yes, and I try and remind people too, I'm kind of, I'm into kind of the workout field, and I used to be, I wouldn't ever say I was a bodybuilder, but I was kind of leaning in that direction. Well, you need that sleep to repair your body. Well, I also learned that you need that for your mind. That's Dr. Huberman I told you about earlier. Genius of a guy. I'm glad I found him. But one of the things that he brought up is that neuroplasticity. That's actually when your brain does the neuroplasticity. It's actually when you're sleeping. So where you do need the extra sleep is that you do need to make sure that to help your brain do what it needs to do to kind of really grow. It happens in sleep. And so, yes, I have to admit, of all the stress techniques that are out there, this one is probably one of my worst, unfortunately. I hear you with the screens. For me, sometimes it's like, oh, one more episode. It's like, I need it. No, I don't.
Yeah, and Netflix sets it up right for you, right? They're like, next episode starting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then it started. It's like, man, did they do that on purpose?
Oh, once you watch The Social Dilemma, you'll understand how they do it on purpose.
Yeah. Oof. It's wild. Well, this is all amazing stuff. So tell us more about the badass within Greg Evans and how connecting to that, your badass within, helps you to perform your best.
Well, I can't totally claim the whole badass thing myself. I kind of stole that from Alpha M. So Aaron Marino on YouTube, if you ever see him, that's where I kind of stole it from. So I got to give props to where I got it from. But one of the things I wanted to help people with, and I like you, badass within, is a lot of times we like to define the badass as that, the motorcycle person or, the big sports star or whatever. But no, we're all badasses. I think, one of the biggest badasses that ever lived is Stephen Hawking. But the guy was in a wheelchair almost most of his life. But the dude's a badass. I mean, just the intellectual genius that guy is. And so, to me, there's so many badasses out there. And badass is just being yourself. That's what I try and encourage people is, you want to be a badass? Be you. Embrace you. If you are a geek and you want to talk hours of Star Wars or Tolkien, talk hours of Star Wars or Tolkien. If you want to talk fishing for the next 10 hours and you have someone who wants to, then talk fishing for the next 10 hours. Embrace the wonderful you, and that is how you be a badass. So that's one of the things I try and encourage people is we all like that diamond in the rough. We have the diamond in us. And just because someone else doesn't like the diamond doesn't mean it's bad. I like Tolkien. I can sit and listen to someone talk to hours about a chapter in Lord of the Rings. I know other people that, they'd rather watch paint dry. And I get that. So to me, it's like, okay, this is my badass nature. Their badass nature might be they can talk about fishing for hours, and I can talk about 5-10 minutes, and then I'm tapped out. That's well. So I encourage people to do is the badass is a diamond inside of you. Let it out, embrace it, be comfortable with it. But don't be scared about it. Some people feel like, oh, that means for me to embrace me means I have to shove it on people. It's like, no, you don't have to shove it on people. Just like that aspect of you. There's times like I'm a bit of a geek. I was watching an interview recently where they were talking about, finances, and one of the guys acknowledged comic books they liked. And all of a sudden they went off on this little comic book thing. And I was like, dude, I kind of like comic books. And so and so it's like, yeah, that's a part of the badass nature. But okay, they were talking finances, so I had to quickly shove it back down and get back on the topic. So, okay, we're here talking about de-stressing. We're not here talking about fishing, Star Wars, whatever. So, okay, keep that on the down low. But I enjoy it. And so later I will, well, not so much fishing, but Star Wars. Later I can talk to people about that.
Do you have any exercises that help people to find their inner badass, to be themselves, and to know kind of how to show that aspect of themselves?
Well, I encourage first people to find the wonderful aspects of themselves, the things that they enjoy. A lot of times it's finding your hobby. If you're, like I said, hobby is fishing, then that's your hobby. If it's race car driving, that's your hobby. Whatever it is, find that hobby or thing that you like about yourself and enjoy it. And look at yourself enjoying it. Thinking, hey, this is a great aspect of me. I enjoy whatever the hobby is. And that's a way you can enjoy the wonderful aspect of you. And then, okay, how do you express it? Well, while we often talk about the negatives of social media, there are some positives. And one of the positives there are a lot of this one things, I'm known to be a critic of Facebook, but one of the things they actually can do well on is helping people connect to other people who have similar interests. And so that's one of the things I recommend doing is going online, finding people who have that same interest so that you can embrace it, that you can talk about it. I've heard of numerous people that are like, oh, I didn't have anyone to talk. I'm kind of into cars. And so there's times where I'm like, wow, I get to talk about cars now. And so there's some wonderful things. So I'm married. My wife could care less about cars. She likes Star Wars, but after about 10 minutes, she kind of reached her tap. And so it's nice to have those people. So that's why I recommend find that thing that you like about yourself, those things you like about yourself, find people that have the same interests and talk about it.
Elise, this actually brings up a very good point that we should talk about at some point, which is in relationships, how do you get people to expose their inner badass, right? What's the technique to knowing, who that badass is? How do you get it out of them? Because once you can do that, I think you'll probably know people at a much different and more intimate level than just talking with them about news and politics, which it's like Facebook. I'm turning off news and politics at this point.
That's a great point, Greg, and I love that and I believe the first step is to know that everyone has that inner badass within them. And the more you know your own inner badass, the more you can know other people's. So to just go into any conversation, even if it's with somebody that you might disagree with on a superficial level, like a political level or something, to go into that conversation or that relationship with the person with that in mind. How can I discover this person's inner badass? How can I get it out of them? That intention alone, I think, makes a huge difference. That's really powerful.
That is hugely powerful, Craig. Thank you so much. That's awesome.
Yep. And what I've discovered, kind of talking about the politics, not to go into politics, but
don't do that.
We're not going into politics. I'm not talking any politics. But say there's a topic you disagree on, how to make a sandwich or whatever your topic is, find those things that go. And what I've discovered a lot of times is if you dig down into the whys, you'll eventually find an area that you connect on. It's in politics is one of the areas I've discovered is a lot of times if I dig down, we can often find an area we agree on. And so I'm like, okay, great. Let's start from where we agree and then we can branch out. And the nice thing is that's something that I've done also in interests. Kind of going on Star Wars. Star Wars, if you get deep in it, it's a very fractured community. Ever since Disney bought it, it's very fractured. Disney is the spawn of the devil. It can get as nasty as any place. But I've discovered a lot of times is if I can pull down the layers, and that's like, okay, what was your favorite movie? A New Hope. Okay, great. I really like that one too. What did you think of, Luke Skywalker and he's first starting Discovery as the Force? And so we can often find those areas that we match on. I'm trying to use that in my marriage. There's areas that, okay, where we connect on. We both like Marvel movies. So, okay, how do we connect on that? And sometimes you have to just invest in people and where you disagree. But I think that's where you are more talented, at least in caring and loving the differences. But
yeah, well, it's kind of the same as what you started this interview with, which is when you see the diamond in yourself, you can also appreciate the diamond in others. And when you learn to accept your own rough, you can accept other people's roughs as well, because we all have them. And going and moving about in the world with that intention to focus. And what I'm hearing from you as an overall theme in this is focusing. Where are you focused your attention? Are you focused on the positive? Are you focused on the rough spots? Are you focused on stress? Or are you focused on the now? And as you train your focus towards that diamond within, that badass within, the more you see that in yourself and other people. And I'll just add that's exactly what we want to do with Spirit Drivers. Is we want to bring that out in people and create a group and a community where we're all bringing out each other's inner badasses and supporting each other and uplifting each other to that next level in our lives.
Boy, that's really the best point about Spirit Drivers when in the forums, because you're basically sitting in a virtual room with 10 people whose inner badasses are at your disposal. Mm-hmm. Right? That's the beauty of it.
And I can definitely recommend Spirit Drivers. I'm also part of the forums, and it is wonderful to see people talk about, hey, check out this vacation I went on to, or this wonderful experience, and Greg sharing the puppy, and everyone just sharing these wonderful things and encouraging each other. And it's, I kind of think of it, it's like it's the good brother to Facebook. It's the one that no one's sitting there like going, oh, well, blah, 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 blah. It's, hey, this is great and this is wonderful. And even if we're not on necessarily the same page as that wonderful, we can still appreciate the wonderful that the other person has experienced.
Right.
Thank you for saying that, Greg. It's really true. That's what we're all about, is uplifting the positive things in our own lives and sharing them with each other and appreciating them in other people's posts and shares. And not that we bypass the difficult things, because Spirit Drivers is also a place where you can share. If you need support, you could share that and you can receive support. But I think the subtle shift is that you're not ever just dumping your stuff, but you're coming into the conversation with the spirit of, hey, vulnerably, honestly, this is what I'm going through, and I'm open to seeing it a different way. Can you help me?
Right. I'm very glad you brought that up, because I think one of the times that, I'm part of definitely the positive movement and gratitude and whatnot, is we can get blamed for, well, you can't always be positive. Sometimes there are bad things that happen. Last night, a good friend of mine found out his mother passed away. Well, you know what? We need to mourn. We need to be sad. I got a huge blessing from my stepmother-in-law, who unfortunately also passed away. With the house that we're buying, she actually pitched in some good money towards it as a gift towards us. And so it's going to be bittersweet at times. And it's okay to mourn. It's okay to allow those bad feelings. It's okay to be angry. There's benefits. I like to talk about anger as opportunity. And so that's something for another time. But anyway, it's okay. Feel the negative are good. And sometimes we do need to focus on the negative. We do need to think through things. We do need to mourn. We do need to deal with our wounds. I've gone to professional counsel before. I've had those times where the whole time it's digging through the muck. It's digging through the negative. It's feeling the sorrow. It's feeling the anger. It's feeling whatever you are. You're not going to get to the glory on the other side unless sometimes you go through the bad. So I like to tell people it's not getting over it. It's getting through it. Mm-hmm. Through it, you have to go through it. So I'm glad you brought that up, because sometimes us positive people get, oh, you're just not facing reality. It's like, no, we face reality. you can redefine it and focus on the positive, but sometimes, yes, you have to look at the negative and acknowledge it and work through it.
Yeah, you said that really well. And that's something that I've been fascinated by, is how can we accept what is, even if it's not immediately positive for you, accept it and work through it and have that intention of then shifting back into your vision or shifting back into the positive of now. And there's a really amazing quote from Marianne Williamson, who's a spiritual writer who actually ran for president this year. And she said that having faith is not bypassing the negative, but it is affirming that there is a solution. So it doesn't mean that the negative doesn't exist. It doesn't mean that the stress doesn't exist. It doesn't mean that COVID doesn't exist. But it means you're affirming that there's a solution for you and that there's a solution more broadly.
Yeah. And the solution might not be what you're expecting it to be. I've seen way too many people, this is the solution. Well, I'm sure you've seen that in relationships. Well, she just needs to understand, though, that that ain't going to work.
The solution is never someone else. Keep it. It's always you.
Yes, the solution is you, people. And the solution is me. I've had my own marital problems. Okay, the solution is me. It's not her.
Yeah. I think we can all relate to that. Oh my gosh. So I want to start wrapping this up because there's just so much here that my brain and my heart are just exploding with gratitude for your work and for your messages. And I would love to hear a summary from you, Greg Evans. What would you say is like the one thing that you really want to drive home with people about how to de-stress and perform your best right now?
Focus. What are you focused on? I think that's one of the things that we have to remember is we can control our brain. We can control what we're thinking. There's the old cliche, well, they made me mad. Well, no, the anger may be well justified. It may be the right emotion, but you can control your thinking. And so one of the things I try to remind people is every moment, every day, every second, you can control your thoughts. You can change your mind to another thing. Sometimes it's hard. Okay. I will readily admit that. I've had times too where I'm trying to wrestle my brain to positive and it just doesn't want to go there.
Yeah.
There's times we're angry, we want to stay angry. But the fact of focus, so that's one of the things, and that you have something you can do. That's one of the things that it's like, okay, you can focus and now you can move forward and there is something you can do. There always is something you can do. It may not be the cure, answer, or solution you want, but there is something you can do now to make it at least a bit better.
Beautifully said.
That is wonderfully said, and it's absolutely stunning advice for right now, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't think of a better time to start practicing that or to continue practicing that and re-energize your efforts toward practicing that focus, because it's so true. It's just all about how you're focusing, and it takes practice. It takes time to shift your mindset to the positive of now, to remember in those key moments to do your breathing, to shift your mindset to digging for the diamond in the rough or searching for someone's badass. And those are things that just, if you practice them, then they come more naturally in your brain. And then you're more often in that state of mind of positive presence in the now. And your stress eventually, little by little, diminishes.
Yeah, embrace yourself. Like you said, little by little, it takes practice. To be graceful, self-compassion. We're going to fail sometime. We're going to fall short. I like the fact that you brought up the importance of failure and understanding it. So I don't do this perfectly. No one does this perfectly. There's no guru that does everything perfect. We all have our rough, but practice does lead towards perfect.
Mm-hmm. Beautifully said. Well, thank you so much again, Greg Evans. It has been such a pleasure to follow you, to follow your work, and it's a pleasure to have you in our community. I thank you for everything that you share, for all the ways that you uplift, and for making it okay to be exactly who you are, who we are, even in our stressed out times.
Well, thank you very much. I'm sorry.
We certainly appreciate who you are. So thank you again for the time today and for sharing with us.
Thank you. And I do recommend, if everyone watching this, they're going to be doing more shows. Catch some of the other people. I've been watching some of your other shows, peeling some wisdom from those too. So I encourage people, stay tuned to the other shows.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you. Well, we'll say goodbye to you now until next time. Ciao.
Bye.
And he's right. We will be going live next week with another super special guest, a member of our community who has an incredible story about overcoming depression and how he found his faith and his positivity and power through his power of faith and listening to his spirit. So it's going to be a really powerful interview. I'm excited for that one.
Oh, I am too. It's we have a number of these lined up, so it's every Tuesday morning at 9:30 Eastern time.
Yep, and 3:30 Zurich time.
At 3:30 Zurich time. It's always fun to recognize that Elise and I are 6 hours of time difference apart. So I get up with Elise and I go to bed with my Tokyo clients.
You're in the middle. Oh my gosh.
I'm right in the middle, right? So.
Wow. Well, and another thing I wanted to say is Greg Evans made such a great point about focus. And that's exactly what our free gift on our website does, is it helps you to train your focus towards your vision, toward what you can do now. If you feel like you're in this chaos of fear and uncertainty, the what we've got on the website there, if you click and download that, will really guide you through how to get yourself back onto your vision.
We've had such great positive comments about this free gift that's out there. It is probably one of the most valuable things that we could have ever offered at any price, and it's just sitting there. All you have to do is click and download and start the exercises. It's a guaranteed win for you.
Yeah. And please share your comments on this interview. Once you watched it, share your comments for Greg Evans. We'll make sure that he sees them and is able to give you a good answer about how to de-stress and perform your best. And other than that, go to our website, visit Spirit Drivers. We'd love to have you in our community. We're all about uplifting and rebuilding our confidence in the face of uncertain events.
Thank you so much for watching today, and be sure to go pick up the free guide if you haven't done so already.
Yeah. All right, Greg, can we do a high five through the screen? What's this way?
I believe it is. Oh no, it's
Another way.
Other way. Ah!
It's confusing because it's mirrored.
Okay,
I have to get that down. We'll have to practice it.
Elise, now I have to do a breathing exercise. So,
all right.
My next step after this is to find someone and actually confront them about what is their inner badass.
Yes,
I will report the results.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question to ask somebody. Tell me about your inner badass.
Right? Isn't it?
I'm going to use it.
I don't think I've ever been asked that, but
I haven't either.
I'm going to do it.
Really good conversation starter, I would say.
I would say.
Awesome, Greg. Well, thank you so much for another awesome interview. And thank you again to Greg Evans. And we'll be back next week.
Thank you all for watching.
Yeah. And in the meantime, keep your spirit tuned.